What's up my people, you're in the place for DDD conversation. My name is Tristan Dees and today we're going to be doing something entirely different. We're actually going to be looking at our extra deck and trying to identify what cards are in the DDD archetype and what cards are best for this format. Now going into the actual cards themselves, we have things like Flame King Genghis, fusion level 6 monster that only requires 2 DD monsters. Now the attack of it itself is only 2000 and defense is 1500, and also the secondary effect can only be activated when your opponent destroys this card.
To my little friend.
So in that sense, we can't utilize it to its fullest potential. Likewise, with the fact that it's a fire monster, it means we can't utilize its effectiveness in a PK package.
Good try, Gohan, but you can't just power up and become a Super Saiyan.
However, it does give us the recursion effect, which allows us to bring stuff out from our graveyard and follow up our plays from there. So in that regard, I want to say this is a necessity for our deck. We actually need this card in our deck profile at all times. So going up next, we obviously have following it, the Flame High King Genghis. Now Flame High King Genghis in of itself is a really good card, but to get it on the field is actually a bit more difficult due to the fact that we require 2 DD monsters, one of which needs to be level 5 or higher. Now the best part about this card is to activate its original effect of the recursion is that you only need to normal summon a monster. So if you were to actually get this out prior to your Flame King Genghis, you could actually activate its effects, bringing something back from the graveyard and being able to do something with it straight away. The downside is you're rarely going to be getting Flame High King Genghis out first due to the fact that it's a level 8 and you're not going to be able to climb a ladder to end up initiating your entire field. Now that being said, it might even be worth looking into some combos that actually enable us to get this guy out, or maybe even get multiple of this guy out during your first turn, going into a level 8 play, going into some form of rank up magic launch, going into some PK package, and actually being able to utilize this guy to get Kali Yuga during your opponent's turn. Now the downside, obviously, it is still fire type, so it can't actually be utilized for PK itself. However, the fact that it's a level 8 is really dope just because it can go into an Xyz play due to the fact that it has that normal or special summoning on the original effect, and also to supplement that, you have the once per turn it can negate a spell or trap, which is absolutely fantastic, and that's why I also think it's a necessity in the deck profile itself. Now going into the next card, we actually have DDD Oracle King Dark. Now I'm a massive fan of this card. This card itself is the misprint that I've shown off recently, but the only downside to it, it doesn't bring that recursion effect. Now likewise with the Flame King Genghis, it actually gives us the 2 DD monsters is all we require to make it. And the benefits of the King Dark is actually a level 7, which means we can utilize this guy to go straight into a Synchro level 8. Now once again, due to the fact that it is a dark, does mean we can utilize it in the PK package itself. Now it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be utilizing this card to go into PK, but it does give us the ability to actually benefit from its attribute. Now if I was playing pure DDDs, I definitely would side one of these in. I don't know if I'd play it in my main deck due to the fact that I'm not running a life point deck, but if I wanted to play something gimmicky, which I think I might even do some tests with, I would go for the Oracle King Dark, maybe have multiple of these guys on the field at a time just to see it activate its effect more often. Now due to the fact that I'm not using it at the moment, I am actually going to put it in the section where I've decided I'm not actually going to play this. Going into the next fusion, we've got Dragon Bane King Beowulf. Now, Dragon Bane King Beowulf is an absolute phenomenal card, has that attack of 3000, the defense of 2500. The only downside is it's requiring 1 DDD monster plus 1 DD monster. Now the only way to get this out if you're not running a Swamp King is to actually utilize your Vice Typhoon in the graveyard on the turn that it's sent there to summon King Beowulf to the field. Now this is great because you straight up get a Beowulf to your field that's a level 8 monster, it's a dark monster, and then it gives you the inflicting piercing damage across your entire board. So it's not just the one card that's able to do it, it's every single monster you control will inflict piercing damage to a defense position monster. So this in some cases is an OTK, but the downside to this card that would have been so amazing had it not been once per turn during your standby phase is had we been able to destroy all cards in the spell and trap zones once per turn, this card would have been fantastic, although it might have even been broken. So for that reason, it is actually going to go in the not so good pile. Coming up next, we have our Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. Now, I actually got this card from one of my friends originally, he saw that I messed with Oracle King Dark a lot, and Oracle King Dark was one of my first cards that I originally got, and for beating him in a duel, he promised me this one that he had just managed to pull. This one actually requires 2 triple D monsters, and the downside to requiring 2 triple D monsters is you need to run an extra card in your deck, i.e. the Swamp King. Now Swamp King's absolutely fine to run, maybe even run multiples of it, depending on how often you want to fusion summon. But if you just went for a triple D deck that was entirely fusion summons, you would run as many fusion potentials as possible. And to be honest, that could even result in some really good plays. The only downside is we don't actually have any negates or interaction during your opponent's turn with the fusion monsters that we currently have. So for this guy, once per turn when an attack is declared, you can interact with your opponent. However, you have to target one other DD or Dark Contract card that you control, destroy it, and then target one other DD or Dark Contract card you control, return it to the hand, and if you do, then you can equip one face-up monster your opponent controls to this card, except the battling monster. So although this card is an OG and can absolutely wipe out your opponent, your opponent has to be playing 2 monsters, so there's already a requirement there. There's another requirement with the fact that you have to be playing either a spell or trap or another monster alongside this guy, as well as having already spent your materials to get him out in the first place, just to activate the effect that he can have an attack equal to the attack that's added to this card by that equipped monster. So that being said, he's not that great a card. Obviously it's an instant removal, but you've got stuff like instant fusion that can bring out Relinquish. Relinquish can always equip. You have your Link monster Relinquish that can, whenever it's pointing to a monster, can take that card as well. In my eyes, this card is made redundant. Now going on to the last and final fusion cards, I'm actually in love with this card, and I actually used to play this card to begin with, because on fusion summon, it's straight up target an attack position monster your opponent controls and straight up destroy it. Most people don't play this card anymore because it's one of the super Doom Kings that people just aren't interested in playing, but it is a phenomenal card in the sense that it is a pendulum effect as well. So even when it's destroyed, once per turn before damage, even when it's destroyed, it goes straight to your pendulum zone as a pendulum scale of 1. And then once per turn before damage calculation, if your triple D fusion monster battles an opponent's monster, you can make that opponent's monster lose 1000 attack until the end of this turn, which is actually fantastic. The other great effect about this card is whenever it's battling a monster that has changed its attack, you can simply utilize the effect of before damage calculation. If an opponent's monster battles, you can make its attack become equal to its original attack until the end of the damage step. So in my opinion, this guy is actually pretty dope. Now with that all being said, if you did want me to make a fusion deck profile using the triple D monsters, please do let me know, because I would very much like to do so anyway. And if you guys want to see it, that's even better. So with that all being said though guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.